My younger sister always had a problem falling asleep at night, and so she would ask me to tell her a story just to help her fall asleep. And I would do that, and I would tell her a story every night. And it got to the point where I could tell her a story waiting in line with my mom at the supermarket, or if we were stuck in the back seat of the car on a long car ride. And I just loved doing it. And I loved to read. I learned to read at a pretty early age, and I remember the physical sensations of my parents driving up to the library once a week with me in the car, and knowing that I could run in and get whatever book I wanted. And I just loved books. I remember as a child being very porous, if that makes any sense. I would hear a piece of music and I would have a very strong emotional reaction to it. I would see a movie and it would stay with me for days. And I think there was something about losing myself in a piece of music or a movie or even a sitcom and pretending that I was inside of it and living it too. And I think when I told my sister stories at night, I would really leave myself and leave my head and just kind of be lost in another world. And the crazy thing was these characters and stories would just happen. I wouldn't even be trying to come up with them. They would just sort of be there if I tapped into it. And I loved that feeling. I was working for the first time in New York in specific jobs that were, I guess, connected to the media. I was working for a magazine, and then I worked for a television show, and then I worked for a film studio. And I noticed that for the first time ever, I felt that being Regis Philbin's daughter was my entire identity. You know, whatever job I had, I felt that no matter how hard I worked or what I did, I was still always going to be Regis Philbin's daughter. And one day I was coming out of the subway at Times Square, and I think I was in between jobs and feeling a little down, and I still wanted to be a writer, but I was too, I think, scared at that point to really pursue it. And I looked up, and there on the Jumbotron in Times Square were both my parents doing my dad's show. And they looked fabulous, and they were making people laugh, and I looked up and I thought, something has really gone wrong for me. What is going on? You know? And I think it was around that time that I came up with this idea of 3 girls, and they each had a sort of this larger-than-life parent. And I started writing it, and then I immediately, no, can't do it. No, I'm not ready. And I put it aside, and I really sat on it for a long time. And then it was, I think, maybe almost 8 to 10 years later that I revisited it, and I decided to make them younger. And as soon as I made them younger, it really fell into place. I think people are naturally curious about sort of the celebrity world, and because it's everywhere we look, you know, it's on the cover of every magazine now, which is interesting because 10 years ago we didn't hear about celebrity kids at all, and now we have entire cover stories about children who are 3. So I think there's that natural curiosity for that, but I think they also relate to the questions of identity that come up, because I think everyone relates to, you know, who am I? Who am I going to be in this world? What do people expect me to be, and who am I really? You know, and I think that's what they're connecting to ultimately. Some of them want to know what it's like to have a parent who's on TV and who I've met, but a lot of them want to know how to be a writer, and how do I get published, and what's the first step. And one girl asked me, how do I write a transition between scenes? And I thought, wow, I don't actually know the answer to that. I was so impressed. And some other girls came up and said, I don't want to be a writer, but I want to be a dancer, or I want to be an actor, I want to be a singer. And hearing you talk about how long it took you to write this book inspires me and gives me hope that if you really persist, you can do it. And so it's kind of thrilling to hear them say those kinds of things. But a lot of them want to be writers, and that's fantastic.